So the only in-class assignment we have this week is dealing with the thing that we went through with OPVL last week. A lot of times when I do the formatives for this, and obviously if you were in class, either the odd periods on Monday and Tuesday or a student on Wednesday, you'll have heard this already, so you don't really have to listen to this. So you can stop it now and move on to the assignment if you didn't finish it in class. But for those of you who are B students during 6th hour, this is basically what we did in class. So what you're doing for this one, instead of doing the OPVL, we're going to just focus on origin and purpose. And what I want you to do is click on this chart right here, which will open up this. And we talked a little bit about when we were going into the origin, purpose, value, and limitation, that a great way to kind of focus on what to answer for origin and purpose, as well as value and limitation, is to use these questions. All right. So pretty much what I want you to do is to focus on trying to answer as many of these 4 and as many of these 5 based on the source that is attached. So if you read through these questions, the first part for origin, where does it come from? When was the information published or posted? Who's the author, publisher, source, or sponsor? Are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations given? What are them? Sorry, that's a typo. It should be what are they? So we're going to talk a little bit about each of these questions, and then we'll go on to the purpose side. So the website right here, and this is one of those things that we're going to talk about first, about the difference between which source you're doing this for. So when you click on this website, it will bring you to this page. Now, the thing that you want to focus on is that we're doing this for this source. All right? So we're not doing the origin, purpose, and value limitation for the History Matters website. We're just doing it for what is this primary source. And the thing about now is that, maybe 20 years ago, I might have just given you a handout with this on it and some of this background about it. But today, we have these websites that have the information, and so we have to really determine which origin are we focusing on. So if we read through this paragraph, it talks about how this was a print showing the tarring and feathering of a guy who was a customs agent. And a customs agent basically was somebody who collected taxes. So during the Revolution, when the Patriots are basically attacking the people selecting or getting the taxes, they would tar and feather them, which means that they would, if you've ever seen like driveways get tarred or roofs get tarred, it's this black, thick, hot stuff that they put on to like coat something. Well, they would put that on a person and then put feathers all over them. Other forms of public humiliation included daubing victims' homes with the contents of cesspits, which means dumping poop in them. There was violence against property, and the anti-patriot print showed a customer's commissioner being attacked under the Liberty Tree by patriots, including a leather-aproned artisan, while the Boston Tea Party occurred in the background. And so this essentially is looking at the idea of they were pouring tea in his mouth and showing basically in a negative light the patriots. So this was a loyalist print depicting or showing the patriots as being these evil, ruffian, violent people that were attacking the customs agent. All right. So once again, we want to go back and do our O and our P questions based off of this. So first of all, where does this source come from? Well, if you look at this, it's a British print from 1774. All right, so pretty much where does this come from? We're looking at the idea that this was something created by pro-loyalists in 1774. When was the information published? Well, that question kind of goes, 1774 was in there. Who's the author, publisher, source, or sponsor? Again, it's the British. It's the loyalist, the pro-loyalist. As far as where it's published, we can't say for certain where it was. We would probably just have to make an assumption that it was in some sort of newspaper print. And then lastly, are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations given? Not really. Like if you look at the source, it doesn't say essentially who was doing it, but we can make the interpretation that the origin was of a pro-British side because it's the Bostonians doing this to the tax guy, the excise man. So we would say probably that the credentials are pretty standard because we get the understanding that this was what they were doing. All right, now we move on to the purpose part. So what's the purpose of the information? So this is where we start getting into kind of beyond just what we see. So here the purpose was to basically show the Patriots as being bad people. The perspective that they're trying to give is this view that the Bostonians and the Patriots are evil and awful people that are attacking these poor tax people for no reason except because they're just bad. And I think you make an opinion here. Is the purpose clear? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe when you looked at it, you didn't know enough background information. But it does become a little bit more clear once you kind of learn and experience some of this information. It's very obviously propaganda, and a lot of times many of the things that we're going to look at are propaganda. You don't really get a lot of fact stuff unless you're reading like actual reports of stuff. But even in those points, there's always some sort of opinion. And does the point of view appear objective or impartial? So objective means that they're saying like this is what happened. If it's impartial, that means like, oh, they weren't really, taking one side or the other. So in this point, obviously it's propaganda against the Patriots. So it's very much not objective or impartial. It's very much partial to the British side. All right, so that's all you have to do for this one. Eventually we're going to get into the value and limitation, but I just want to start off with the origin and the purpose. And you really should write these as a paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences of what the origin is and a paragraph of what the purpose is. All right. So again, for you B students from the 6-hour class, hopefully this video helps you answer this question. And again, the due date for this is Wednesday, October 14th. So please try to get it done here today on your distance.